what does the President Buhari economic plan and agenda is for Nigeria? Is it working? Is it one that we need to question critically? Yes, of course, as citizens, we need to know what the president has in store. And also, we need to critically analyze those plans and how favorable they are for the citizens. Tonight, I have joining me from our Abuja studio, Dr. Bolarinwa Bolaji, an associate professor of mathematics and convener of progressives in academia. I will also be joined on the program much later by Mr. Muda Yusuf, Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Let's get to the conversation, everyone. Dr. Bolaji, the president has laid out some of his plan, and he did mention that most of the wealth of the nation are in the hands of the few. What do you think the president mean by this statement, and what could be the implication of what he meant in that statement where he delivered earlier today at the opening session of the Economic Forum?
Good evening, Sheung. Good evening, Nigerians. By that statement, it is obvious, and we know, even before he made that statement, that the economy of the federation, the wealth of the nation is lopsided in terms of distribution. We have a large chunk of it in the hands of the ruling class, and the other masses, they are left with barely nothing. So the Mr. President is right about that. He's right about what he said. And obviously, there is a need for a redistribution of the wealth of Nigerians. It is our common patrimony, and it has to be redistributed in such a way that everybody will have, will have his own due from the wealth. So that's what Mr. President said, and I agree with him.
But, I mean, if you look at what the plan of the government is and what they are doing and what he said today when he said, look, the large chunk of the nation's wealth is in the hands of a few. Looking at the planned increase in value-added tax, a lot of people are wondering, if you said that, does that really tally with your intention of increasing VAT? And if you say that, does the president or the Buhari government or the APC government mean that is going to impoverish the average Nigerian more? Does that have anything to tally?
It is not right to think in that direction. We have to do comparative analysis of VAT across across the nations of the world. When you look at it, you will see that the rate of 5% that we have been using is among the lowest. And I do not see anything bad in increasing that, because it is obvious that the size of our budget is very low compared to that of South Africa, compared to that of compared to some other advanced economies of the world. So for the size of the budget to be brought up, then it means that government will have to make more money. And that kind of VAT is another area through which more money could be made. You know, for the size of the budget to be increased, it means government will have to make more money. So I do not see anything wrong about that. The problem with us in this part of the world is that we do not like to pay our taxes, whereas at the same time we expect much from the government. I think we have to have a change of mind as regards that. Let's pay our taxes, and so that when government makes more money, they will be able to discharge their duties in the areas of provision of facilities, infrastructures, and all sorts of things like that. And you will agree with me that our infrastructures and facilities are in shambles. So for government to be able to attend to them, we need more money. The size of the budget has to be increased. That is why perhaps government is thinking in that direction. And another area that I even suggest is that we should tinker with the idea of property tax, so that the wealthy citizens will have to be made to pay more. So, for our facilities to be improved. Because when you go to Europe and you go to other advanced economy of the world, you will see that they have a large chunk of money, to spend on, in a year. So we cannot afford to lag behind in that regards. When you look at our budget of about 10 trillion naira that is proposed for next year, you will see that it is not going to be sufficient to cater for, to improve on our facilities and
All right.
service the
Dr.
economy
Bolarinwa.
of the country. And how do you go about it? So the only way to go about it is to think of how to bring to rake in more money into the purse of the government. But when we do that, then Nigerians too can hold government responsible. We should hold them accountable too. So the two of them go pari passu.
Let's take a breather, Dr. Bolaji. But I've now since been joined by Mr. Muda Yusuf, the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Let me come to you, Mr. Yusuf. Look at what the president said. Mr. President did say today that in 2050, population of Nigeria is estimated to grow to about 400 million people. Now, there needs to be a plan. There needs to be an agenda. And he also said today that the wealth of this nation is in the hands of just a few people. But if you weigh that with the plan of the government, vis-a-vis the planned increase in VAT and other taxes, and the agenda in the increase of revenue, how would you assess what the president is doing and his team are doing against the will of the people of Nigeria? Is it in tandem? How do you wait?
Yes. First of all, let me commend the fact that the president was there in person to interact with the private sector at the Economic Summit Group. This is a very good thing for public-private dialogue and public-private partnership, because it is important that you have this kind of forum so that there can be proper communication between the private sector and the government. Talking about the issue of population and the GDP performance, generally, when you have an economy where the population growth rate is outpacing the growth of the economy, we have to worry. What that tells you is that the situation of poverty will continue to worsen. Because right now, we have a population growth rate of about 2.7, getting close to 3% per annum. And we have a GDP growth rate of less than 2%. And if we are not careful, the situation could get worse. So the engagement that we had today with the president, I think, is to reinforce the fact that there's still a whole lot that needs to be done, particularly in the area of promoting economic diversification, improving the productivity in the economy, promoting innovation and the use of technology, and also promoting economic inclusion. But before you talk of economic inclusion, you have to grow the economy first. You have to give the market some space. The president made some reference to the issue of market economy and all of that. But it's important that, because most of the countries that have really advanced and advanced very well, many of them are market-driven economies. Of course, there is what we call market failure in economics. Government intervenes in areas where the market cannot deliver results. But when you have an economy that is endowed with so much entrepreneurs, when you have an economy of very enterprising people, the greater the scope of the market, the better for this economy. And we can now look at areas that market is deficient and now intervene. And one of the key areas to promote
Mr. Yusuf,
economic
sorry,
inclusion.
apologies if I may butt in quickly. The president's fear is that the wealth of the nation is in the hands of a few. So the question is that this government in the last 4 or 5 years says that they want to focus, they want to be a welfareist oriented with their economic agenda. They want the poor of the poorest to get out of poverty. Those are some of their agenda. But again, you look at economies of the world that are prospering, the medium and the small-scale enterprises thrive. Would you say this government is on the right track in their trajectory and their agenda of getting things right?
Well, in what the president says, I think the president is on the right track. I think where we could begin to engage is on the strategy to deliver on this issue. The issue of distribution of income or the disparity in income, of course, is a major issue worldwide, globally. Many countries worry about that. And one of the easiest ways to reduce this disparity is to invest a lot more in the social sector, invest more in education, invest more in health, invest more in human capital. And in the engagement that took place today, all these key issues were raised in a very big way.
So,
There was very
Mr.
robust
Yusuf,
discussion and
Mr. Yusuf,
engagement
sorry,
on the
apologies
need.
again if I'm aborting. So the big
Yeah.
question is that when we talk about human capital, so we're talking about the sectors of education, the sector of entrepreneuring, the sector of health. These are some of the areas that the World Bank or the United Nations are asking for a window or a ceiling of budget proposal into. So ahead of tomorrow's budget presentation of the president, for us to be on the right track and getting it right in terms of human capital development, what do you expect that the president should say that will get us on the right track?
Well, what I expect the president to say first is to re-emphasize the need for more investment in education, more investment in health, and more support for small and medium enterprises in the economy. Because these three pillars are very critical to building an economy that is inclusive. And the issue of economic inclusion featured in a very recurrent way, featured prominently in the engagement that took place today. So when we invest a lot more in education, in healthcare, creating the right kind of environment for small businesses, this will go a long way in addressing the concern that the president
in getting your closing
So-
remark, Mr. Muda, because I need to also get the closing remark in few seconds of Dr. Bolaji. The issue of the planned increase in VAT and other taxation, is that the correct approach considering the plan of the government of balancing things about on being on the right track as a closing remark?
Well, I think what is most important at this time is to ensure that we broaden the tax net. The data we have in terms of the number of people or the number of businesses paying tax is still very, very low compared to the potentials that we have. I think that is where the greater emphasis should be. Because for many businesses, the burden of running a business in this country, particularly those who are in production, the burden is a whole lot. You have to worry about energy, worry about water, worry about roads, worry about high cost of funds, worry about regulatory institutions, worry about fees, worry about levies. So there's a whole lot of burden. That is why what is important at this time is to create an environment for these investors to be able to perform.
Let's get Dr. Bolaji's closing remark on this one. With what is happening, do you think the president and the government of the day is popular with some of his ideas? If it's popular or not, if it's going to be of benefit to Nigerians, at the end of the day, that should be of importance. But at the end of the day, how can they manage some of these expectations? Just in 30 seconds.
It's obvious that government is on the right track. We need to broaden the way we pay taxes in Nigeria. And like I said before, the wealthy Nigerians, they don't like to pay tax. So we should desist from that. Let's do our duty by paying taxes. I'm even postulating that we should introduce property tax so that people who own property should be paying tax on them, so that we can rake in more money.
But
like
for some of those who pay taxes, Dr. Bolaji, for some of those who pay taxes and are working and they know that the taxes will increase, some of them who are angry are saying that let us see the benefit of the taxes. Isn't that a credible way to ask for the government for more? Or for the right thing?
Yeah, let's pay our taxes first. Then we can now hold government accountable the way they spend the revenue. If we don't pay our taxes, there will not be money available for government to spend on facilities, infrastructures that we said are down.
Dr. Bolaji, we must leave it at that because we are obviously out of time.
So let us.
But I must sincerely apologize, Dr. Bolaji. Bolarinwa Bolaji, thank you so much for talking to us tonight on the program, and as well as Mr. Muda Yusuf, the DG of LCCI. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on tonight. Well, that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye-bye.